when we're trying to make the decision, should we ditch the exhaust manifolds and install headers? Well, I think it's best if we understand how the header works first. I would like to discuss that, show that, and then explain some advantages of each at the end of the video. So many believe that the only advantage of a header is the flow when it comes to performance. And while flow is a big part of it, there is another part of it too that happens down on this end that's critical, and that's called scavenging. We have to keep in mind that the intake valve and the exhaust valve are opened at the same time just for a little bit. And that's because when the exhaust is getting ready to close and the exhaust is exiting down the pipe, when you open the intake valve, there's a little overlap there where it pulls the charge of the fuel air mixture into the cylinder. So as one's exiting, it naturally wants to suck the charge coming in through the intake valve into the cylinder. So as one's closing, it's discharging out the pipe. The intake valve cracks open and it pulls in that charge from the intake into the cylinder to help it fill it. Once it gets that flow going, boom, the exhaust valve is shut, the intake valve is coming wide open, and it continues to pull in to the cylinder as the piston's going down. Headers help that through the scavenging process. And that's what we gotta remember and understand. So what I'm gonna try to simulate here is inside here, you got your 4 exhaust pipes that I talked about, and then the collector that comes off of them. I got a leaky air connection. But what I done is I taped this hose to my end so I don't have to hold it. I taped these two together, and this is the collector. So basically this is the end I just showed you. That has 4 pipes. This is only going to have 2 pipes. And then the collector. And I want to show you what happens and what the collector actually does. So there's a lot better examples than this, a lot better. But I just got a napkin here, and what I'm going to try to do is blow air through this as one of the pipes that are blowing out the exhaust. And I'm going to show you when it comes out this collector, hopefully it's not sealed very well, that there'll be enough suction in there to kind of want to pick up that napkin. Even though there's no air going through this, the air is going through this one. When it hits that collector, the outward force of air naturally creates like a vacuum to want to pick that up. Let's just see if it does it. Okay, I got a hold of it. It's trying to pick it up. See that? And again, I got leaks all over this system, but you can see see that? I get close to it, watch it. See how that sucks it up like that? It lifts that up. And I gave a terrible example. I don't have the end sealed. It just was a bad way to demonstrate it, but it still demonstrated it. Even under a terrible situation like that, it still was trying to pick up that napkin, which tells you that there was a slight air pull on the one that had no air going to it. And that's kind of what the scavenging effect is in here. When one of these pipes is blowing, you get a scavenging effect. And this is the reason why when people run headers, even open headers, they oftentimes run an extension on the back side of it. Depends on your outfit, anywhere from 8 to some go 16 inches out the back of just a straight open pipe, because it helps that scavenging effect as it works. So the truth of the matter is, headers are actually tuned when they build them. And that's why long tube headers, because of the scavenging effect, are more effective than shorties, the little short tube headers on your vehicle. And there are many that will make the argument, headers, they don't make no difference unless you got 450 or more horsepower. If you got a 150, 200 horsepower, 300 horsepower motor, you don't need them. Well, in a sense, that's a correct statement. You don't need them, but It's an easy way to maximize the performance of an engine, and headers should make a difference regardless of how small the engine is. Even a mini bike motor tuned exhaust works. Here is an example where I put headers on a 318 two-barrel, and in the 8th mile I gained 2 miles an hour and dropped about 2.5 tenths. Now if it had been a quarter mile, I bet I'd have gained 3 miles an hour and probably dropped 3.5 tenths. But if you install headers on a car or truck, you have to tune and time it to the header. It's going to be different than it was with the manifold if you want to get the performance you should. And then of course you got the fast class, F-A-S-T, the fast class, factory appearing stock tire class that runs exhaust manifolds. And it's worth noted that there was somebody who just set the small block record with exhaust manifolds in a quarter mile of 134 mile an hour, 1018. How is that even possible? I mean, that's extreme. 134 mile an hour, I believe that's what it was. Maybe it was 132. But either one, in a quarter mile with stock 340 exhaust manifolds, how does that happen? Well, it didn't happen because they removed headers, put on manifolds, and it went faster. That is a lot of science and testing and engineering behind an engine built specifically to work off of the manifolds, simply because that class of racing requires them. And you'll find this with all class racing, that they go fast with certain parts because they have to. And we will continually work and tweak, and we will get to where we get faster and faster using those parts if you restrict it to us. But if we're not restricted, hot rodding, you know, people kind of do what a little bit of the easier road and the more common road would be. Looking at the reasons why somebody would want to stick with exhaust manifolds, even if they, you know, got a little bit of a hopped up V8. One is, a lot of people don't like headers, are known for being a pain. If you got a small engine compartment, they can be a pain to install. The life expectancy is certainly shorter than an exhaust manifold. More room around the starter versus in a cobbled mess. But while that's true, that's, in my opinion, semi-true. And if you want to know if it was hard to put the headers on this, let's take a look. We all know what a pain headers are to install in cars, but I'm going to try to put these Hedman headers around the oil filter in this 1977 Dodge van in less than 60 seconds. The passenger one goes in from the top, the driver's one goes in from the underneath, around the starter, up, and hung. And in a truck, I can hang the headers probably faster than you could hang exhaust manifolds, to be truthful. Well, as you can see, it really does matter what you're working on. Also, for the life, hands down, the manifold's going to be a longer life. I mean, there's manifolds out there 60, 70, 80 years old and still performing on cars. Headers, if you buy a good quality header with the right heat paint or ceramic coated or whatever, and if you don't drive them in the winter with all kinds of salt hitting them, yeah, you can get 25 years out of a set of headers if you do it carefully. I've gotten 7, 8 years out of cheapies not taking care of them. So it all plays out on that, but certainly nobody can say the header is a longer lasting piece than an exhaust manifold, unless you got an exhaust manifold on a particular car that likes to crack. Well, then that's a different case too. As you can see, it's so case dependent. Does that make sense? Some like the headers because they just think they look cooler, better, hotter underneath the hood. Some like the headers because it gives a little deeper, throatier sound out the back or under the hood. Some like the headers because it's easier to run your dual exhaust if you're running your dual exhaust yourself, other than trying to find and bend a head pipe to come off the exhaust manifold. We all know what a pain that can be. But many like it for the performance, the flow, the scavenging. And they're expecting an increase in power. Here's the original exhaust manifold off of my van. But why would somebody want to stick to a manifold? Well, some, you know, are known for headers hanging a little lower and scraping on some. Depends on what brand in the car. Again, that's all dependent on the case, by case. Leaks up here. And which I'm going to tell you, here's a cheapie set. And look how thin this is. Very thin. There you go. You get almost twice this thickness if you buy like a Doug's. So then your header leaks, again, if you buy a little bit more quality piece, you don't get, you know, as big as a chance of leaking your headers, hitting the headers, more room, laid out better. So it all plays a part. But why would you stick to the manifolds? To eliminate that part of the process, you know, the aging and the wearing, the exhaust leak. In some cases, it gives you more room under the hood, around the starter, more access to the spark plugs in some cases. But guys, again, it's all case by case scenario. In the end, just as I said, it's case by case. What works for you and what's right for you may not be for the next guy. So all that's got to be taken into consideration when you're making that choice to ditch the exhaust manifolds and go with headers. Personally, it's so much easier for me. I run so much of my own exhaust that it's easier for me to do a header back system than to mess with the head pipes. Although in some cases, companies like TTI make some very nice bolt-on head pipes. I've used them. They work. They're slick. So again, it's all what a person wants to do. But hopefully running over with you how the header actually works and functions, it should let you know that if I do put headers on my car, if you take an average car, and this is rollover, I'm talking about Dodges and Mopars and showing that because that's what I have. But you can roll this over to Ford, Chevrolet, Buick, Pontiac, Olds. It doesn't make any difference. AMC. When you put headers on it, and I don't care if you're talking a 273 slant 6 318 or a 600 horsepower 440, the headers should always bring an increase. True, the bigger the power, the more they're needed. But even a small four-cylinder, a small Briggs & Stratton appreciates a tuned exhaust. Think about it, guys. People will take a little dirt bike, an 80cc dirt bike, and they'll put a tuned pipe on that. And they say it made a difference. And then the same people will tell you that the tuned pipe on the little YZ80 Yamaha made a difference and it's faster. They'll tell you don't put a header, if you're looking for performance, on something that has over 300 cubic inches because it don't make a difference. Oh, by the way, on the van, it did have dual exhaust with the manifold, so it already had dual exhaust. So the gain was just off the headers. Anyways, guys, I hope this helps somebody understand, because I know there's a lot I need help understanding. Goodness.